We just got a statement from Defense Minister Israel Katz, who says, and I want to read this in full here. He says, following the state of Israel's preemptive strike against Iran, a missile and drone attack against the state of Israel and its civilian population is expected in the immediate future. Two important parts to that sentence there. First, the defense minister is acknowledging that Israel has carried out what he calls a preemptive strike against Iran. This is what we've been looking for over the course of the past days, and frankly, something the U.S. has been tracking for several weeks now, the possibility that Israel will carry out a strike against Iran. There are some social media reports of explosions happening in Tehran. Unclear what the targets are of those. There's still a lot more information we need there, but Israel's defense minister has acknowledged that they have carried out strikes against Iran, the first time in months that we have seen direct Israeli action against targets in Tehran. Again, unclear what those targets are, whether it's Iranian nuclear facilities or other targets. So we will wait to learn more about that. But following that, the defense minister has said that Home Front Command has essentially shifted the entire country into an emergency status, and that the population here is expected to follow the instructions of Home Front Command. A short time ago, we heard sirens going off here in Jerusalem behind us. We got messages on our phone related to those sirens saying Home Front Command is putting the country on alert. And the defense minister is saying that Israel expects an imminent missile and drone attack incoming following Israel's strikes against Iran. I will also read a statement we've gotten from Israel's military, the Israel Defense Forces, that says, following the situational assessment, it was determined that as of today at 3 in the morning, immediate changes will be made to the Home Front Command guidelines. As part of the changes, it was decided to shift all areas of the countries from full activity to essential activity, and that brings with it a prohibition on educational activities, gatherings, and workplaces, except for essential sectors. So you see the immediate shift coming from the government and from the military and the defense minister in light of what they expect to be a potential large-scale response and retaliation from Iran that may be incoming, at least according to the statement we're seeing here, imminently here. And of course, you have to note the timing here. The U.S. was still intending to carry out nuclear talks, a sixth round with Iran, just in the coming days here on Sunday in Oman. This is a remarkable move from Israel to essentially cut those off and carry out this series of strikes that will have reverberations across the region from this moment, from the impact of what's happening right now. We will certainly wait to see, Anderson, what more we learn about the strikes themselves, as of course we wait to see in anticipation of what happens where we are in Jerusalem and across the country here.
Oren, we, as you said, we have seen strikes in the past from Israel, but those were more in response to strikes from Iran. Do you know anything about, I mean, and the targeting of that seemed very precise to my memory the last time. This seems different, no?
It does, and it depends on what was targeted, and that's what we don't know yet. The last time we saw Israel strike Iran, they went after ballistic missile facilities and air defenses. The time before that was a smaller set of targets, essentially just to say, hey, these are the capabilities we have. This is what we're capable of. This potentially much bigger. What the U.S. was looking for here, frankly, what the world was looking for and concerned about, was whether Israel would make the decision to strike Iran's nuclear facilities. There were concerns here about not only what was shaping up to be the nuclear negotiations, but also the existence of the negotiations themselves. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke with President Donald Trump earlier this week. Trump told Netanyahu, scale back on the threatening rhetoric, scale back on the warnings of an attack against Iran and the threat of military action. Clearly, that message was not taken to heart by Israel here. And Netanyahu tried to make the point that Iran was not serious about the negotiations, according to a source familiar with the conversations, and that they were just buying time. That speaks to the level of concern Israel had about Iran's intentions, and that led to what you see here. We'll wait to see what more we learn about the targets of these strikes, but Israel has made it clear, and Netanyahu specifically has made it clear, that he has tried to put on the table a credible military option against Iran's nuclear program.
Or in standby, I just want to bring in CNN's senior White House correspondent Kristen Holmes in Washington. Kristen, are you hearing anything from the Trump administration?
No, we have reached out, but I will tell you that I talked to a number of White House officials who seem to be on heightened alert that this could come tonight. I was told this was going around the building, that this was a possible expectation for this evening. Now, of course, we believed that to be the case, or at least that there was some heightened intel coming in, given the fact that the United States, the State Department, Department of Defense had started to remove any non-essential personnel from the Mideast region. And as Oren said, one of the things we've been focusing on so intently is these talks, the sixth round of talks between Iran and the U.S. that was scheduled for Sunday. I was told as recently as today that those were still on, but we did sense a growing frustration within the administration when it came to Iran not coming to the table, not coming up with anything that would allow them to not enrich uranium. Remember, this has really been the sticking point. We did report a few weeks ago that in the last talks, Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff had presented a proposal that allowed Iran to enrich a little bit of uranium. Shortly afterwards, Donald Trump posted that Iran could not enrich any uranium, could not have any semblance of a nuclear program, which then threw this idea of ever coming to an agreement off. However, they were still scheduled to sit back down on Sunday to have these negotiations. So how this is all playing into that is very important for the United States, as they have been seeking to try to come up with some sort of Iran deal. We also know that there has been kind of threats from Donald Trump towards Iran, saying that you need to come up with a deal or something could happen. Now today, Donald Trump was asked specifically what the Israelis had told him that had caused the United States to remove their personnel from the Mideast region. And he said they hadn't told him anything, but he did continue to say that a massive attack could be coming. He wouldn't use the word imminent, but he said there really could possibly be something on the horizon. So clearly they were tracking this. They believed that this was going to happen, and we have reached out to see what comments they have as this is unfolding.
I want to bring back, Kristen, to stay with us as you continue to gather information. I want to bring Oren Lieberman back. Oren, just in terms of U.S. involvement, no indication of U.S. involvement at this point, or is there? What are you hearing?
Anderson, is an excellent question because there's normally very close coordination between the U.S. and Israel, especially when it comes to Iran and threats in the region. And we have seen that in previous rounds when it comes to, for example, the air defense of Israel against Iranian ballistic missile and drone attacks. This time, it seems like there's at least some kind of shift here. We have just heard from a U.S. official that the U.S. is aware of the strikes, but crucially, there is no U.S. involvement and no U.S. assistance, an indication that Israel may well have moved on its own here. A key question, how much, if any, notification did they give the United States? It's a significant statement from that U.S. official because it shows the different tracks here, as the U.S., at least from what we understand, was trying to pursue diplomacy. Israel had other intents, preparing a strike over the course of the past several weeks. That's something the U.S. was watching closely, and now ultimately making the decision to carry out that strike here, at least from what we understand, without U.S. involvement and without U.S. assistance. There is normally a tremendous amount of cooperation, especially on the intel and preparation side of these, but here it doesn't seem like there was that level that we have seen in the past. Perhaps it shouldn't be too much of a surprise. We have seen the U.S. act on its own without Israel several times, specifically Trump making decisions on his own, and that would be, for example, here, a ceasefire deal with the Houthis, sort of surprising Netanyahu in the Oval Office with talks on Iran, and there have been several other instances. For example, when Trump came to the region, he stopped in Saudi Arabia and other countries, but didn't stop here. That was the U.S. acting on its own, and it looks very much like these Israeli strikes in Iran are Israel acting largely on its own, it seems, Anderson.
Oren, I want to bring in CNN Global Affairs analyst Brett McGurk. He's a former Middle East and North Africa coordinator for the National Security Council. We've seen in past years some remarkable efforts to slow the Iranian nuclear program, the assassination of nuclear scientists in Iran, some remarkably detailed and surprising assassinations, essentially. What capabilities does Israel actually have for a very decisive blow, if that's what this is an attempt to be, or if we don't know the nature of this attack? What kind of capabilities does Israel have to actually destroy the nuclear program?
I'd say, Anderson, we don't know the targets yet. So let me go from like least escalatory to most escalatory. Least escalatory, there's a chance here, there are reports of explosions around Tehran. That could be the Israelis taking out some new air defense systems that reportedly the Iranians were trying to get in. I think that would be least escalatory, similar to the strike the Israelis did last October. Second, there's a chance here that the Israelis are trying to take out some other capabilities. They could be going for a persona target. They could be going after some targets related to the Houthi missile threat that continue to come out of Yemen. The most escalatory, Anderson, would be a strike against the Iranian nuclear facilities. I think if Israel has done that tonight, we're going to see a significant escalation in the Middle East. And I hope that the U.S. military forces are prepared for that. But right now, we do not know the target set of what the Israelis were going after.